Hello everyone, my name is Mike and I am the co-founder of the Wanda Pratnicka Center. Today we are going to talk about a very painful subject. It is about the dying of a person that we loved very dearly. In the first moment we feel a shock of loss, and that loss is influencing every cell of our emotional body, of our physical body, and of our mental body. It is because when someone truly close dies, with whom we have felt a strong emotional connection, we are just shaken inside out. We feel like we have suddenly run out of air, and the ground is disappearing from under feet. And the bond may have been so strong that we cannot even imagine to live without this person. And their departure takes away all desire to live and act. It doesn't matter here if we are talking about a sudden death or that is preceded by a long illness. We might think that a long illness gives us time to prepare, at least minimally. It may seem this way from outside, but that is not true. When death comes, it just strikes like a bolt from blue. That has been part of my personal experience, and that also has been part of my wife's Wanda experience. And she is writing about that experience in her book Possessed by Ghosts, Exorcisms in the 21st Century. Sometimes when someone who suffers long dies, it is as if we feel a relief at the death that the beloved person had to endure. A sudden death without any warning leaves us always very, very shocked, and it is as if we were thrown into a completely different and a paralyzing reality. And some despair so much that everyone around can feel and experience their suffering. Others here remain unmoved. Seemingly, they don't show emotions outwardly. Still others blame God, they blame the world, they blame people, for example in situations where there was an accident. However, we always need to remember that an accident is a catastrophical event in the life of every human being, also those who were involved in the accident, who were maybe seemingly the cause for the accident. So there are many ways of experiencing grief, but the most common feature is that great pain is always experienced by survivors. Every death is a great shock, and the death of a young and loving people is even a greater experience. In such situations, entire families suffer. Everyone is sympathizing and calms and comforts, and that is very, very good. It is very, very beneficial if we have support in difficult moments. The surrounding people should always support as often as best as only possible. And here everyone who has experienced loss in this way should experience grief as strongly as only possible, and it should take as long as one needs and wants. And the best way to regain mental stability and emotional stability is to say goodbye to the beloved person. We always must remember to say goodbye to the person we have lost. It is very, very important because there is a moment where the soul cannot longer go away from the world of the living, and that can be the reason why the soul of that person is staying among the living. And that causes a lot of pain for the soul and for the remaining ones who might experience possession. In such moments, those who are left behind should realize that despite their great suffering, they are actually incredibly lucky. They have been loved and they love themselves. So in the moment of the grief, at the same time try to appreciate how lucky you were. You have experienced something truly wonderful that thousands, even millions people have never experienced. So try to look at yourself not from the perspective of the present loss, but from the perspective of what you gained through love. And contrary to how it appears, true love is a great, great rarity. What people usually call love is just a kind of attachment, is just a kind of having company. If we talk about that kind of love, that human love, always remember that true love never ends. True love is forever, and it develops more and more with time. You have received something wonderful, and that wonderful can be still part of your experience. You can love yourself, you can love others. Finally, the most beautiful scenario is when we start loving all the people on earth. So nothing in that situation can separate you from love. There is no space for love. There is not even death that can separate you from love. If you love truly, you will love that person, and that person will always love you back. So if you connect to that person, not from your emotional body, but from your heart, from the true love that is within your heart, you will always receive a reply. You will always receive a love that is sending to you back, and that love may be even so much greater than the love that you have had the chance to experience while having that person close to you in the physical level. The beloved soul that crosses to the other side will always, always love you and will remember you. When you die, that soul will wait for you and will greet you for your arrival. Most often we don't want that to remember in the moment of death. We are having the tendency to occupy our thoughts only with the loss and nothing more. And that, as I already said, is a great, great problem and a great, great burden for the soul, for the departing soul. On the one side, we are keeping loving the soul. On the other side, we want the soul not to go. We want to keep the soul as long as only possible. This, however, is a great suffering for the future, and it may come to possession in such situations. Remember, however, that this is a very selfish approach that sooner or later turns against us. And this truth applies to all loving people forced to part by death. It doesn't matter if we're talking here about lovers, if we are talking about a parent and a child, or if we're talking about two friends. All parting is hurting the same. In many, many cases, we don't realize the consequences of that kind of behavior. We just don't know that with our great grief and despair, we bind the beloved soul with great, great chains. This way we are harming the beloved soul greatly, not to mention that we, in most cases, then harm also ourselves, because the grief and the despair don't allow the soul to leave when there is the right moment for that and where there is the energy for going away. So our attachment to beautiful moments that we have spent together becomes the cause of unhappiness for them and for us. Unfortunately, we don't consider that the departing soul already finds it very, very difficult to leave everything they love, everything they left for, with what they were so intensely connected. So the soul is torn, completely doesn't know what to do. That soul, on the one side, would very much like to leave. It feels that this is the only way to go about the situation. On the other hand, it also has the tendency to be willing to stay because it misses, and that is why it's so important not to add our grief and our despair to the departing soul's dilemmas. Very important subject here. Every soul is given an appropriate time to leave. If we don't let go, this time frame passes, and the soul has no longer the possibility to leave by its own strength. And when after a time we come to terms with loss and we become more willing to say goodbye to the soul, it has no meaning anymore because the soul can no longer leave. The time that has been designated for this to happen already ended. In such moments, two scenarios are possible. Sometimes we don't hold the soul back. We are saying goodbye, we're giving the soul the love, and the love is the freedom to go away. However, the soul may on its own decide not to go, and we have no influence on how this turns out. So the other situation is we are holding the soul back. And unfortunately both cases sometimes create tragic consequences, and these consequences will manifest in near future. When a loving couple is separated by a sudden, unexpected death, it is so very hard to accept. So it is more than normal that after the funeral we remember the beloved person with tenderness. Often we are contemplating moments that we have spent together, and we think about every kiss, every touch, every sign of love coming from the other. And sometimes the imagination begins here creating new images, memories, sometimes endless memories. Such fantasizing gives us solace and makes us feel lighter at heart. However, we absolutely need to remember that this is a very critical period where we must be very, very alert. At the very beginning, we feel actually very happy because we so intensely feel the presence of the beloved. We have the impression as if they still lived, or even more, the intensity of that connection is stronger than during lifetime because the soul is outside of the physical body and it can express the emotions and the love so much greater than before. It might be that we feel more and more tangibly their touches, their love sent to us, and it feels so good. And when we go into this more and more and more, then we are reaching a moment where it feels as if we are physically making love. And if that becomes normality, we are all of a sudden starting to have sex with the spirit. And that is a moment where it's very dangerous, because then we are binding the spirit in our energy field. And then we just have a bond that is not easily breakable. And on the road, many different things can happen, because the soul is staying close to human reality. It is starting to experience negativity originating from the emotional collective world of humanity. The first layers, as I have often said, are the layers of negativity, and so all of a sudden there is a change in the vibration that the soul is sending to you. It is no longer love and it is no longer tenderness. It starts with anger, with rage maybe, with fear of survival, and so on and so on. There is also a other possible scenario. Weeks and years are passing, and what gave so much joy and solace at the beginning now is no longer enough. The remained person sometimes, after a time, no longer want and can live in solitude among spirits, because that's what the connection is all about. That remaining person here on earth starts to live astral reality, which, as I said, is very painful. So let's say that remaining person wants to return to the living ones. It wants to meet someone with whom it feels good. And sometimes such a person is meeting someone to talk to go for a walk with, to go to the cinema or go to a party. It wants to forget about the past, about the tragedy of departing. It wants at last enough to be among living, and usually that does not work, because the bond with the spirit continues. In most cases, the spirit doesn't want us to contact with any other people, and it will, with its own strength and with its own emotions, chase away anyone who appears to be on our path or is nearby. And the spirit wants our devotion. It doesn't want to share us with anyone. And that, in most cases, leads to a situation where everyone starts to avoiding us. Family, colleagues at work, even people who are just passing by on the street, they feel negativity originating from us. They feel as if this is not right to contact us in any way. In such moments, we wonder what is wrong with us, and in most cases, we don't even realize that our environment is just repelled by the spirit, and we, all of a sudden, are left completely alone. We are going to hear and the consideration about parting with someone who we loved dearly, and I will continue that subject the next podcast. Today, I thank you so much for listening. I wish you a wonderful new year that is better than the last year, and I say bye-bye.